Welcome to the Navigating Dental Insurance Podcast, where we don't take from insurance companies. Here are your hosts, Mr. Jordan Comstock and Mr. Ben Tuine.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Say No to PPO's podcast series. This is the Navigating Dental Insurance Podcast. My name is Ben Tuine, and today I am your solo host. My colleague Jordan Comstock is, it's a birthday today, and so rightfully, a tradition every year, he takes his birthday off, whether it's on a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, no matter what day of the week. Jordan's out somewhere in the world having fun. So he wishes everybody well, hope everybody's doing well and fantastic today. Today, folks, we have a wonderful guest, Bob Spiel, who we've networked through the Speaker and Consulting Network, which Jordan's a part of that network. I still have to submit my application for that. But Bob's on the phone today with us, and I'll go into Bob's background here in a minute. But Bob, welcome to the show today.
Ben, really, it's awesome to be with you, so thanks so much.
I've been looking forward to this, Bob. I read your book, which is going to be the focus of our conversation today. But so for those of you that may or may not know Bob is actually an excellent speaker. If you Google his name, Bob Spiel, you will find. Did I pronounce your name right? I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you did.
Okay. I always get nervous because when people say, Ben, how do you pronounce your name? And then when we go live, they make a mistake or two, and I don't ever fault people for that because I have a difficult last name, but Bob Spiel should be easy for a person like me to remember. So since 1988, Bob has been helping businesses and practices achieve increased production, profitability, and personal enjoyment. With an MBA in finance and general management and postgraduate work at Stanford and Georgia Tech, Spiel Consulting was founded to leverage Bob's passion for working closely with healthcare professionals, guiding them towards even greater professional and personal success. The bottom line results in practice growth. During his years in the private industry, Bob served as a financial analyst and then as an operations director for an industry leading large cap and mid cap size companies. There he played an instrumental role by transforming crisis-laden projects and operations into smooth running profitable machines. Using a leadership-focused and process-driven approach, these skills allowed him to miraculously turn around the failed hospital and failing surgical centers that he worked for. As a practice consultant, he has helped multiple clients achieve impressive results, like returning failed practices to profitability and helping them realize extreme growth. So, Bob, we're excited to talk to you today because you wrote this book called Flip Your Focus.
I did.
And I highly recommend this book for those of you that are out there. So Jordan and I read, I'm a leadership philosophy type of guy. So when I read your book, Bob, it connected with me because there are a lot of things in here that, folks like myself that owns a small business, you're trying to lead a team, you're trying to lead clients down the right path and helping them foster good leadership skills. There's so many great nuggets in here that you talk about that I think this is a must read for any business owner or anybody out there that wears any type of leadership hat, whether you're a COO for another business, a business that you may not own, a CEO or a manager of any type. So Bob, why the title Flip Your Focus?
Yeah, great question, Ben, and thanks again for letting me come on. Flip Your Focus comes from a basic but profound shift in emphasis as a owner, leader, manager. What it really boils down to, Ben, and what my book is about is how you achieve this. But the idea is really simple. It comes down to this, that the traditional organization looks like a pyramid. Yeah. And everybody exists to see that the person at the top succeeds. Flipping your focus means that you take that traditional pyramid organization and literally turn it upside down. Mm-hmm. And by so doing, the person at the top, their job is to see that his or her team succeeds. Gotcha. And when you make that shift as a leader and then learn to incorporate the behaviors that accompany that shift, what it does to an organization in terms of alignment, profitability, performance is absolutely dramatic. Yeah. And a really, really fun thing to see take place. But I'll put it this way, Ben. It's not modeled out in business very much. But for those that get it, they call it playing the hidden game.
Right.
Because they're playing a game that the other guys or gals don't see. But for those who do understand it, it's almost an unfair advantage in the marketplace.
Yeah, it's interesting that I mean, in your book here, you mention things like upside down leadership or the upside down leadership model.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go through this, your philosophy on leadership and the upside down aspect of it, to me, I'm thinking, I can't help but think, why isn't this the norm? Why do we have to call it upside down leadership?
It's, I think, in part because what we find in most businesses, for instance, my dad was a Navy guy. He grew up in a command and control structure, and a lot of businesses are all about command and control at the same time.
Yeah.
It's how it's modeled, frankly. And it's what a lot of people believe is their job in actually setting up and owning a business. I mean, some of it, frankly, you fall into because, as you know, as an entrepreneur in the early stages of a business, everything funnels through you.
Right.
But you eventually reach a point where there's only so much of you to go around.
Mm-hmm.
And when you reach that threshold, a business owner has a decision to make, and that is, do they continue to burn out and become a limiting factor, and actually then create a business that plateaus and then starts to actually go down?
Yeah.
Or do they decide, what got me there isn't going to keep me there, and I've got to learn new skills and change a fundamental view of my role as a leader, mm-hmm. to then allow my organization to take it up to the next level after that.
Right. So I would love for you to clarify some things. So when you talk about leadership that's not necessarily the norm, but is sort of the secret sauce in business today, which I believe that if more leaders embrace this upside down leadership model, businesses would flourish, team members, the morale in the office, if you will, would be much greater, and people would come to work happier, more production would be produced. So in terms of this whole concept of delegation, in here, there's, let's see here, chapter 5 or 6, when you mention delegate almost everything, mm-hmm. except for vision, direction, and pace. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Love to, you bet. Let me frame it with this, though, and then I'll answer your question. I talk about this in the book, but I want to speak to it also because it was, there's certain moments in life that when you look back and realize, man, I just got one of the most profound, life-changing truths. And that happened to me almost 40 years ago with a boss who was my very first mentor. The guy was a phenomenal teacher. He'd been a graduate student for Stephen Covey when Covey was still in academia as an organizational behavioral professor. And, I remember the day that he brought me in his office. We talked a lot. And this one day, I don't know why this struck him, but he said, "Bob, do you want to know your agenda in business?" And I was a young 23-year-old kid at the time, really hungry, wanting to find out everything I could. And I looked at him and said, "Yeah, Jim, I'd love to find out what my agenda in business is." And he leaned back in his chair and he just said, "There are 4 things." And I looked at him like, "You're kidding me. There are 4 things?" And he said, "Yeah, there are 4 things. And if you do these well, you're going to succeed. But if you don't, you're always going to be behind the 8 ball." And I looked and said, "Okay, Jim, lay them on me. What are they?" And he said, "Well, the number one thing that you have to do in a business," and this, again, we'll get to the delegation point in a minute, is create an environment of trust. Because where you have trust, you have a foundation to build on. But without it, you're always building on sand. So that means you keep your word, you keep your promises, you're honest with your people, you're honest with yourself. Just create that magical element of trust that then he said, okay, number 2 is you then clarify the expectations. And, over the years, I've seen over and over and over again how clear expectations are magic in a business, but how often, probably 90% of the time, people are dealing with unclear expectations.
Right.
And so therefore we wonder, well, why aren't they doing what we want them to do? Well, do they know? And have you laid it out in a way that's totally understandable? Mm-hmm. So that's number 2, set clear expectation. Then number 3, get the needed resources. Find out what they are going to need to succeed in terms of tools and training. And I thought, great, Jim. All right, so what's number 4? And I'll always remember Ben when he just leaned back in his chair, had this great big smile on his face, and looked at me straight in the eye and said, get out of the way.
I like that.
And it was so cool because in that moment, I realized I was given something that I could use for the rest of my career. And I found every time that I followed that model, and it doesn't always happen in such a sequential order, but if you keep those 4 elements in place, success and really dramatic success takes place. Yeah. What does this have to do with delegation? It has to do with this idea that your job as a leader is to see that your people succeed. Mm-hmm. So how do you get out of the way? You set very clear expectations with a cadence of accountability. You create a culture of participation so that they know that they have ownership, not only in their positions, but also in the diagnosis and the solution of problems and where the business is going. And then you also allow for mistakes. Yeah. Knowing that that's how people learn.
I think that's a scary part there, because even in my business, and Jordan too, about mm-hmm. a year ago, Jordan started hiring some people, and he started passing on some of the key roles and responsibilities of the company's growth. And it was nervous for him, and that's something that I struggled with over the years too. But he handed it over, and then he just got out of the way. Mm-hmm. And it was one of the best things that he's ever done. So I'm trying that too. So how do you? So let's say the get out of the way, which by the way I believe, because I've started doing that more and more and more in my business. And initially you see your team members make mistakes, but you can help correct them. So, yeah. So this whole delegation thing, one of the major concerns that I hear from other dentist practice owners is if I relinquish that responsibility, it's not going to get done, and it's not going to get done, or it's not going to get done right.
Okay, and I'll couch this with this phrase that I heard from a friend of mine about 6 months ago. There are no such thing as bad teams, only bad leaders. Mm. Yeah. So when a leader is saying, well, if I let go of that, then I know they're not going to do it right, and I know it's not going to get done on time. Whose fault is that in the end?
Right.
It's the leaders.
That's right.
How do you set it up to begin with so that the expectations are clear? One of the tips and tricks that I learned from, again, Jim Faber, this dear friend of mine, was instead of job descriptions, do roles and goals. That's borrowed from Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I call them roles, goals, expectations, and metrics. So in other words, how can I make this job, instead of look like just a checklist of things that have to be done, instead make it an active, living role that you take place within a business with outcomes and measurements, then say how you're doing against those. Because, see, here's the cool thing about delegation, Ben, that if you do it right up front, mm-hmm. people then begin to manage themselves.
Yeah.
And then accountability is as easy as asking questions. Why do we not hold people accountable? Because we haven't done the work up front to actually set the expectation, and then it becomes so nebulous that we don't know what we're holding them accountable to.
So I think you just you answered one of my longtime questions. I've never written job descriptions for my business.
Mm-hmm.
I've always created these roles because I wanted there to be flexibility.
Yeah,
I wanted
absolutely.
people, yeah, I wanted people to own their areas of responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And the last business well, I had somebody write roles and responsible, like a whole policy manual on what you should be doing every single day.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed in that sort of my test case, this Veritas business that I have, which is 5 years old, the flexibility, the delegation with flexibility, allowing people to make mistakes and carrying them and lifting them and inspiring
Mm-hmm.
seems to have worked a lot better than the robotic day-to-day task and checklist. This is what you have to do, you know, a long list of things that sometimes people were overwhelmed. You know, there was just
Oh,
too
absolutely.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I remember, two phrases that I'll use. One is a quote from Stephen Covey where he said, "You can buy a man's back, but you can't buy their heart. They give it to you."
Mm.
And then somebody that unfortunately had been forgotten in business parlance in America, but was actually a good friend of my great grandfather, H.J. Heinz, who started the Heinz Corporation back
Oh,
in
wow.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, if you want a good study on one of the most profound business leaders in the world, just find a book about H.J. Heinz. The guy was not just a phenomenal visionary when it came to product and marketing, but just the way he led.
Yeah.
And one of the things he said is the best businesses run on heart power.
Right.
Um, so roles and goals are a way to enlist people's hearts into their actual position, and you can have discussions about them, and they do transform and morph over time,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to just having this kind of, as you say, robotic checklist of this, and this. And yeah, I've seen job descriptions that are 5 pages long, and I think, good grief, who wouldn't feel overwhelmed by that?
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you even have a chance to succeed in that type of thing when you literally could take that same job and boil it into 1 page of roles, goals, expectations, and metrics,
Yeah.
and suddenly this job becomes understandable, doable, and you know what you're going to be measured against.
Right. Exactly. Sometimes I see job descriptions written in a way that doesn't really maximize or utilize the talents of the individual that's in that seat.
No.
And so it's very restrictive in that it doesn't provide that person any flexibility to shine,
Correct.
and so I love your philosophy there. I believe in it. I accidentally did it for my business, not knowing that it was
Well,
actually a
good.
thing.
Well, good. That's fantastic, and you've seen how it works.
Maybe I just took the lazy way out. That's why I looked at it back in the day, 5 years ago, when I was redoing this business, is
Hmm.
whether I wanted to rewrite the job responsibilities. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to wing it this time around, and
Yeah.
I'm going to find the right person, and I'm just going to tell them exactly what I expect of them, what their role is.
Hmm.
And I can tell you that it just, the talent of the people that you hire, it just comes out of them. They have so many ideas, and they look at their departments as their own company, their own
Yeah.
business. That
Sure they do.
this is mine. They share in the profits for what they do, and so they're highly motivated
Hmm.
to do the job right. But I love your other area. The other part of your book is what keeps the magic going: appreciation and recognition.
Hmm.
And I think that's sort of good marital advice too. You want to keep your marriage going. The appreciation and recognition, human nature. We all feel good when the boss recognizes and acknowledges the things that we do.
Well,
Um,
people work for a lot of reasons. One of them is money,
yeah,
but money isn't really what keeps you engaged
right.
or has you enlist your heart.
Hmm.
One of the most fascinating things that I've done in my speaking career is I've got one presentation that I give which really zeroes in on upside down leadership, and a part of the time together with the participants is I've got this big old long poster board inside the room, and I asked them to break into teams of 2 or 3, and then together on post-it notes that they've got passed out to them, come up with the two or three characteristics of a really outstanding leader that they have worked for or known in their past, and then have them put those up on these large, banners, okay? And once they've done that, then I say, okay, on the other side of the banner, here's what I want you to do. Put two or three characteristics of really lousy leaders that you've known or worked with. And I don't care if it's Adelaide, Australia, or Atlanta, Georgia, or Washington, D.C., or wherever the seminar is given, it all boils down, frankly, to one word. The leaders that people viewed who were outstanding cared for the individuals in their team, and they knew it. And those who they viewed as lousy were duplicitous, control-minded, and could care less about their teams. So, this sense of appreciation, and I know that for a lot of doctors that is a pucker factor. They go like, oh, gee, I just don't know how to tell somebody thanks. In particular, because a vast majority of dentists are perfectionist personalities. They're already so hard on themselves. And the mindset is, well, you know what? If you get a paycheck, that's thanks.
Right.
Well, to anybody who's listening to this, whether it's a doctor, office manager, or even just a team member, if you want to dramatically increase your leadership capabilities tomorrow, go out and just get some gift cards at Costco or, wherever. Have them in your desk and go out and get some little blank notes. And then when you catch somebody on your team doing something really well, like a conversation I had with a client today who was talking about one of his office manager, who's a really great gal, but a little timid. And we're trying to move her toward the direction of being able to set financial expectations up front. So guess what? Her job's easier in the end,
Right.
Because she's had a little bit of a challenge, and she's a new client. He's a new client to ask people to bring money in. Imagine. Gee. Well, he told me this morning, I heard her had a conversation with a patient yesterday, and she did it really well. I said, doctor, did you tell her thanks? He said, no, I didn't. I said, okay, would you please make sure and you do that on Monday when you see her? Because that's going to reinforce that behavior, and she'll do it again, and she'll do it again, and she'll do it again, just for that one thank you that you gave her. But don't have it be manipulative. You've got to have this idea that, you know what, I need to catch my people doing things well. And when you catch them doing things well and compliment them on it, they'll do more of it. You do more of it, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy upwards.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah, it works in marriage too, Ben. By the way,
Yeah, or raising kids.
Oh, absolutely, yes. Yeah, we all run on praise and appreciation. And it doesn't need to take longer than a hey, thanks, that was great yesterday.
Yeah.
Keep it up. 5 seconds, okay?
Yeah.
Or a 1 minute to write a note just to say, listen, I noticed that you did that. It made me so proud of you and the work that you're doing. And you know what? That's the sort of thing that we want in this practice. Here's a $5 gift certificate to Starbucks. Boom. That employee the next day is going to come back and be walking on water.
Yeah. I can totally see how, when that's done to me I have a few clients that are awesome that way. Anytime when we're negotiating fees for them to do something right, I always get an email or text, hey, that was awesome. That fee schedule was fantastic. And, for me as a vendor, somebody that's doing work for a client, it just helps me it just creates so much loyalty. I'm like, you know what, what can I do that he's not expecting, in terms of my delivery for this client. So it works all the way around, whether it's in your office and, me as a vendor. It teaches me so much about the individual and creates that huge area of loyalty that sort of really changes my view on that particular individual.
Yeah.
I want to shift gears for a minute because in the title of this, I put pre-authorization since this is an insurance-related podcast. So, and this is tied to leadership. So over the last year, I've been studying this thing called pre-authorizations and predeterminations. And it's something that every dental office has to deal with. Earlier this year, we had a gal by the name of Melissa Dunham. She owns a consulting firm, an insurance consulting firm, and focuses mainly on insurance, as well as she is a co-owner in a dental practice in Virginia Beach. Practice does closer to $2 million a year in revenue. They participate with every PPO plan under the sun, but they have a pre-authorization policy. They pre-authorize any treatment outside of, well, all treatment except for cleanings, perio maintenance, or diagnostic imaging. Anything outside of that, they pre-authorize. And I initially thought, wow, that is nuts. I've never heard of anybody pre-authorizing every single item that a patient needs, minus the preventative stuff. What I've learned is that in some states, if you have a pre-authorization, the insurance plan cannot deny the claim for the treatment that you perform that's listed on that pre-authorization. And I just had an epiphany. I wrote this article for Dental Economics. I submitted it for the November edition, and it talks all about this, about the pre-authorizations. So I've been talking to my clients about this, especially those in California. If you go to the CDA website, it clearly cites the law that in the state of California, if you have a pre-authorization, an insurance carrier cannot deny the claim. So in Melissa's practice, and I found over 50 practices that have this same policy, they don't do phone calls to insurance companies. Every week they spend maybe 1 to 2 minutes calling an insurance carrier for something, and it's not a denial. But they don't deal with the standard issues that a typical dental practice that treats insurance patients deals in on a day-to-day basis. So as I talk to my clients about this and start to teach them Melissa's policy on implementing these pre-authorizations to completely eliminate all this insurance hassle that they're dealing with, appealing claims 4 times before they get paid, trying to get them to eliminate that in their practices. And the concern that I get from a lot of these doctors is, I don't know if my team's going to embrace that. But I really want to do it. I just don't know if they're going to do it. They're going to go for it. So they learn this great concept, but they don't implement it because they're afraid of their team.
Because they're afraid of their team, and they're too timid to try to introduce any change.
Right. How do you deal with that?
Well, here's the irony of that, is that if their teams could catch the same vision as a doctor of what this process could do for them on the backside, in terms of stress relief, time, and just making a practice that much more efficient, man, I think they'd be jumping up and down and saying, yes, let's do this.
Yeah.
Okay. So, there are a couple of ways, and a lot depends on a doctor's personality. There are those that are just so timid that they're thinking, oh, man, I'd really like to do that, but gee, I'm so scared of my team.
Yeah.
All right. And I hate to say it, but for those doctors, I don't know if there's a magic bullet out there.
Right.
Okay. Unless they just decide to have a discussion with them and say, listen, guys, or gals, as it is, this is my vision of the practice. And I see how hard you work day in and day out. And I think there's a better way. Can we talk about that? Because that's one of the legs of this 3-legged stool, Ben, that I really believe in terms of how you take upside down leadership and then make it actually work, is you set expectations with a smile, but you also create a cadence of accountability. You use appreciation and recognition, but you also create an environment of participation.
Yeah.
So that it isn't just the doctor saying, this is how you're going to do it, and just shut up and sit down. But again, you delegate everything but vision, direction, and pace, because whether we like it or not, those are inherent in the role of an owner and leader.
Right.
And they can't be given to anybody else. But once you know your vision, once you have a clear direction, and once you're comfortable with your pace, then you start to bring your team in.
Right.
Then you start to enlist them, literally, in the process of making yourself better. I mean, one way that, an owner that's that timid could actually have this discussion would be to have a team meeting, sit down and talk to them about, what's our goal behind the use of insurance? Why are we even participating in all these insurance plans? Okay. And get that goal down in writing, but then have a discussion. Okay, what are we doing today that's working towards that goal? And bullet point that, brainstorm it, and then ask, what are we doing today that isn't working towards that goal? Yeah. Have a discussion about that. It's a simple process improvement technique that I learned a long time ago that is fascinating when you use it, that it actually starts to engage people and they can start to parse out what's working, what isn't working. And once you know what isn't working, it's really easy then to say, okay, therefore what? What do we do with the things that aren't working? Clearly, one of the things that when you deal with insurance is all the refiles and the rejected claims and the battle that you go through on a day in and day out basis to get the money that's really owed to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it is everybody's least favorite part of their job.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, guys, how'd you like to not be on hold for an hour with MetLife?
Exactly.
Every other day. If there's another way that we could approach this so that we're proactive instead of reactive, would you be on board with that?
Yeah. I like that.
I think a team would say, yeah.
Yeah. I like that approach. You sort of have to steer that conversation in the direction that'll show the team members, look, this is going to benefit you. It can't just be, we're going to start doing pre-authorizations.
No, and therefore, just do it. They have to know what's in it for them.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody does. So, yeah.
It's
and let me just state, in that type of a process improvement, just brainstorm session, as a leader, you can always throw something out and say, you know what, have we thought of this before? Because I've heard of other practices that are doing this and they're having dramatic results.
Yeah. It's amazing. It is this whole pre-authorization concept. Bob, I didn't know that it was this simple. For the last 10 years, I've been looking at different ways on how to sort of put up your defenses against insurance carriers. Mm-hmm. And I stumbled across these few practices, and for many years we put together measures to appeal claims and teaching doctors how to do it effectively. And then Melissa comes along and says, "Oh, you're going about it way wrong. If you just do this, especially if you're in these states, then and
that's the key. Yeah. Which states?
Right.
Yeah. So really, what she challenged you to do, Ben, was flip your focus.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm totally a big believer in it now because as I'm coaching our clients into implementing this, and I did a few test clients, it's working. But there's always that concern among many dental practices. Oh, I love this concept. My team's just not going to go for it. Right. Even when it comes to going out of network, there's some plans that you just do not need to be in network with.
That is for sure.
Yeah, and yes, the doctors are so gung ho. I love it. Thanks for that great pitch on going out of network. It was great, but I have to head back into reality because my team is not going to go for it. It's like, well, put them on a call with me. I'll see what I can do. But I think you're right. I was talking to a friend the other day who lost a key employee, an employee that did everything for the business. And, this friend was in a panic because when you lose a key player like that, the confidence in knowing that your business is taken care of diminishes, especially if it was a fully delegated role. And, my motivation for that friend was, look, you look at all these great sport teams, like Peyton Manning, for instance, back when he used to play for the Colts, Indianapolis Colts. Mm-hmm. When the last year he had a Colts jersey, he was sidelined. He had spinal surgery, and he didn't play that year. And the Colts won one game that year. You have Aaron Rodgers that sits out for the year last year, and they just have it. Green Bay has a terrible year. You have these professional players that are.
It's a one-man team, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. But in business, fortunately, it's the role of being an Aaron Rodgers or a Peyton Manning, to me, is on the leader. Mm-hmm. You can lose a team member. They may move out of state, but in the end, you should be the Peyton Manning. You should be that Aaron Rodgers of your business. That with good networking out there and awesome people like Bob and Jordan and Melissa, you can have the right guidance and counsel on exactly what direction to head in terms of finding a replacement. But that leadership role is something that is so crucial. And the common concern is, how can I be a leader over insurance when I'm doing clinical? And I like what you said here in your book. You can delegate just about everything except for the vision, direction, and pace. And when you learn to master that well, you don't have to be concerned about key employees moving to a different state.
You don't know. And let me give you just a couple of other tips that I certainly have found make a difference to the question, how can I be lead in insurance when I'm in the clinical area all the time? One simple way to do that is most practices have somebody or more than one person responsible for working old insurance claims and all insurance claims and submitting, et cetera. Monthly, sit down and actually go through your insurance accounts receivable and see what claims may have problems, what your normal distribution looks like. The goals for the clients I work with is that you want 0 claims older than 90 days.
Yeah.
Unless there's some secondary thing, that's taken place. But such a small amount of your total accounts receivable should be older than 90 days in insurance, and about 70-80% should be current. And you can get those type of dynamics if you've got the right people doing the right things, but you've also got the right reporting mechanisms so that the doctor's aware and the person doing the job is aware that the doctor's asking the questions.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that. That's awesome.
Yeah. One more tip I'd also give your listeners is if they find themselves in a position where they have a lot of overdue accounts receivable, whether it's insurance or patient, the best thing I know to have them do is take that financial coordinator and give them a block of time every week where they get away from the front desk and all they do is work overdue AR.
Yeah.
Give them 2 hours, 3 hours a week until they're caught up and until the dynamic starts to be better. That's all they're doing, because if it is a problem today and you're not doing really anything to hit it, it just turns into a snowball, as you know.
Right. Yeah.
There are practices that they can have 50% of their AR is tied up in stuff older than 90 to 120 days. And when that happens, you've got a very unhealthy financial situation that could even be practice threatening.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Bob, you're a wealth of knowledge when it comes to things like this. I wish we had the entire day just to sit down with you and pick your brain.
It'd be a blast. Yeah, I'd love it, because you're really fun to talk to, Ben.
No, likewise. I think there's a million questions I want to go through, but I know your time is really valuable. So for those that are listening, I recommend that you visit Bob's website. It's in the show notes, spielconsulting.com, and check him out. He is a wealth of knowledge when it comes not just to the leadership, so many different things in terms of management. I mean, Bob's the man. He knows what he's talking about. And buy his book, Flip Your Focus. You can go to Amazon and search for Flip Your Focus. And in my opinion, I've read, big fan of the Arbinger Institute, and I love their leadership books. But I would say that this rivals some of the best leadership books that I've ever read. So the other thing I want to mention about Bob is, so we're organizing a series of conferences throughout next year. And Bob was actually one of the first professional speakers that we've reached out to, simply because I do believe in his leadership style and his leadership philosophy, that it's something that makes leadership a lot easier than what's now considered the norm of leadership. So we're going to announce those conferences coming up here in January. So each quarter next year we'll have a conference somewhere in the United States, and hopefully we'll have Bob speaking at those. But if you do have an organization, dental association, or a study club, I highly recommend reaching out to Bob, simply because, as you heard, I mean, his philosophies on leadership, as well as multiple areas of practice management, are just quite amazing. So Visit Bob's website again, spielconsulting.com, or check out the show notes for that information. Bob, any final thoughts for our listeners?
Yeah, Ben, thanks so much for those words and thoughts. And you know, the last thing that I'd say is stop working so hard and ignite the leader in you.
Yeah, I love that.
Most practices are like this little story that Linda Miles once told me. They resemble the little red wagon that we used to have as kids, and all the team is inside the red wagon, and the dentist is pulling it, and exhausted by doing so. By flipping your focus, you change the entire dynamic of this group, and instead the whole team is surrounding the red wagon, and the dentist is a person steering it.
That's awesome.
Stop working so hard. Ignite that leader inside of you. Go get my book. Write me with questions, and we'll see what we can do to help you.
Awesome. Bob, it was an honor and a pleasure having you on the program today. We truly appreciate it. We hope to have you on again in the near future. But for those of you that want to contact Bob, check out his website, reach out to him and his contact information. I can promise you, even the shortest of conversations with Bob, you'll learn a lot, as I have had the privilege the last 40 minutes learning a lot. But our lunch conversation that we had a couple months ago, boy, a wealth of knowledge. So, Bob, thank you again for being on the program today.
You bet, Ben. Thank you.
And I look forward to having you again in the near future.
Great.
Thank you, sir.